The first Avatar came out, I think, in 2009, and I loved it. I saw it in the theaters in 3D, and I might have seen it twice. I know that I've seen it in 2D at home more than once since then. I thought it was a great movie. I thought that it wasn't perfect, but I think a lot of people that were very critical of it being unoriginal or being silly, I didn't really care about that because I felt like it was a story that was well told and it was meant to be a timeless tale. And so if you want to do a new sci-fi version of Dances with Wolves so that we can experience that powerful story in a new way, great. Romeo and Juliet. You think that Shakespeare was the first person that came up with that basic plot? No, it's a timeless tale. Forbidden love and betrayal, and also when you talk about the stories related to the relationships between the humans and the Na'vi, it's obviously a parallel to white people coming over and interacting with the Native Americans. And Dances with Wolves was a story that came out of that from that era. And I don't know how many times that specific story happened, but yeah, for hundreds of years in this country, there were political alliances, battles, and betrayals that involved um, indigenous people and colonizers. So if you want to say it's unoriginal, well, I guess history is unoriginal then. Okay, obviously the science aspect of it, why the Navi are so human and all that, it doesn't really add up to me. But I'm okay with it. I don't think about it. I do have a theory though, and here's the theory that I think would actually make it make sense. Genetically, they're actually related to humans, and they were actually put there artificially, or their evolution was engineered by another alien species that also created us. So that's one theory. Um. Anyway, so it didn't blow my mind though. I thought it was a great movie. It had great action, but I thought the 3D actually was a bit distracting. I thought it really got me thinking about what would make for good 3D, and I've got a lot of ideas that I want to get into about that later. About how to film it in such a way that really brings you there and doesn't distract you, like the way the camera work. And in Avatar 2, it was all of those things that I had thought of about like how you could improve the experience of 3D. Um, so yeah. So anyway, so about a year ago, I saw the trailer for the sequel, Avatar 2, and I was brought to tears because I wasn't expecting it. And suddenly I just see it. Here's the sequel. This is what 13 years has gotten you. 2 minutes of the most beautiful footage I've ever seen. Just a vision of heaven. And the themes that they were going to explore really moved me. When I saw like some of the dialogue in the trailer about family and seeing Jake become the warrior, and just seeing a lot of love there amidst that chaos and the relationships. It was so beautiful to me that I said, even if the movie ends up not being that good and corny and they kind of waste a lot of the story on stupid stuff, and I'll still be just ever grateful that I get to actually visually experience what this world is like. And that is kind of how it was a bit of a letdown in terms of story and characters and dialogue. In some ways it was actually really phenomenal, but there were some stuff that I was just like, did why are you doing this? Or that's so cheesy, like don't, there were a few moments like that. but I'm gonna stick to this. My commitment to love what good I find there, even if the story and characters have a lot of flaws. I don't care. I'm gonna take this as something that I can experience. And so anyway, so when I went and I saw it the first time, I was pretty high, and it was so intense that it blew my mind, and I didn't sleep for 2 days, and then I had this really bad crash, and I got super depressed for like a week or two after that. I'm still kind of recovering from that, but it was very very strange because seeing it in the theater, it blew my mind so much. I felt like it was real. I felt like I was really seeing it. They couldn't process it all because there was so much happening. So I was like, I have to see it a second time. Second time I saw it, which was a few days ago, um, I found that yes, I indeed was able to process it better, understand the story better, pay attention to what's happening, and really notice the beauty of it without getting overwhelmed by it, by just too much stimulation. Close my eyes, take some breaks for a bit, then get back to it. It's 3 hours long. So anyway, being mellowed down and not experiencing it as intensely enabled me to sort of more experience it as a movie and sort of rather than an experience, so that like I can understand what other people might experience when watching it, because what I experienced the first time I watched it wasn't just wow, this movie is amazing. It was, this is an experience that I've never had before in a theater, including the first Avatar, because the first Avatar, probably my biggest complaint was that so much of it was in the uncanny valley. It was, you could very much tell that it was 3D. In Avatar 2, you cannot tell that anything, you do not look at anything and imagine that it's pixels. So James Cameron jumping past the uncanny valley is probably one of the greatest feats, I think. These were the most like realistic CGI humans, because they are humans essentially. They're humanoids, but they're meant to look like human beings, which is hard to do with CGI. And they look different than people, but they still look like real flesh and blood people. Themes, I thought there was a lot of psychological depth in some of the themes. I thought was really, really wonderful. In Avatar 1, the I would say spiritually, it's intended as a very spiritual movie with a spiritual message, and so does this one that I like. In the first one, it was about Jake becoming a man, but it was also about the female's role in guiding him into becoming a man. And Neytiri shows what a female warrior looks like, and I thought that was so beautiful. Like, she was badass, but it didn't do it in such a way that it was like girl power. It was, or it didn't shit on men. It was, wow, she's cool. And James Cameron likes putting strong female characters in his movies. I mean, look at and he does a good job with it. Look at Sarah Connor in Terminator 2. I like warrior women. I think it's cool, who still express femininity, not women that just act like men. And in Avatar 1, I thought it really showed something really profound, and that was in the first one. Neytiri saves Jake from the Viper Wolves, and she kills them, and he's thankful. He's like, thank you for doing this. And she gets really mad at him and says, no, you don't thank me for this. I had to do that. I hated doing this. Like, they had no reason to die, and you were being stupid running out in the woods. And this is tragic, but I was willing to do it. And she was willing to do it because she saw that there was something in him, and also God told her, essentially. Ewa. And I thought that was really beautiful because it shows that women, when women are warriors, they tend to do it more reluctantly than men. But when they do it, you know that they mean business. And so to me, there's something really beautiful about the idea of when you see a woman go to war, like to me that says she sees the bigger picture and is willing to go to battle to protect the innocent, to do what is right, to express love. Females in war tend to be guardians of the castle, whereas when the kings go to war, they go out and they march on the other castle. That's sort of a yin-yang principle that I think really was expressed in this one. Now in Avatar 2, what I really got from the trailer was they were showing that Jake is now the guy in charge. It's no longer Neytiri. Neytiri guided him, and now he's stepped up into his role as a man and a father. And I was really deeply moved by just how poetic and beautiful they showed what that looks like in the movie. And I was like, wow, they took that gender dynamic from the first one, and now they've switched it to more where Jake is the warrior. And guess what? They did that. They really did. And I thought it was really great. I thought Jake in the first one was a very two-dimensional cartoon character, and he was written that way for, I generally disagree with that approach to trying to tell the hero's journey. But I understand why they did it. In this one, you get a sense of a very deep and complex heart that is battling with how to do the right thing, how to balance protecting his family, and how to, do all those things. But then when Neytiri, and this was another really cool thing about the movie, a really great scene. So in the end scene, Neytiri gets up on the boat, and it's nighttime, and she's running around just slaughtering people. And it's shot so that it's a very long single camera at work, which is you got to do a lot in 3D, I think, where you really feel like you're there because she's like life size on the screen running through and stabbing people. And then finally, when the last person she kills him, you just see this rage coming out of her face, like this facial expression that I've never seen before. Like she's just psycho, because with her grief has driven her to this madness that is leading her to go on this war path. And why do I think that was a really cool thing to show? Because it shows when you see somebody doing that, when they express that intensity of an emotion in response to her child dying, you're like, holy shit, this is real. These are real stakes, and this person is really effective. So you end up caring more about the character. I found I really like that. Kiri, according to the trailer, was going to be sort of the main character. It seemed that they were going to focus on her. I think one of my biggest complaints with this movie is I think they introduced way too many characters. They didn't need to have as many kids in their family as they did. The oldest son was kind of a throwaway character. Let's see, the second oldest son, who befriends the whale, I liked him. I thought that Avatar 2, one of the other criticisms that I have, which I understand, but it is a criticism, is it feels a lot more like a kid's movie. And I think that was done by James Cameron because he wants it to appeal to kids. So as they grow up, they're going to keep watching the sequels. I get that. But I found that the kid drama with like bullies and stuff, I didn't care about it. It just didn't feel interesting to me. It didn't feel like high stakes. But of course, 3-hour movie, you get lots and lots of. So if you just accept it for what it is, this is lots of little stories. It's not the first one. It was very clear right from the beginning that it was building up into something, and you could really sense that happening. And this one is just going all over the place, which I think the reason for that is James Cameron's focus was on being a producer. And he, instead of focusing on the story first and then creating action to fit into it, I think what they did when they made this movie was they started with what are some scenes that we want to include in this movie so that we could just blow everybody's minds. And I think that what they found is that James Cameron, in order to show off his skills, I think the story needed to be flexible enough to have scenes with stuff happening that will show that off, instead of trying to see if, hey, like if you made a story and your focus was it's on a boat and this is the kind of boat it is, blah, 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 blah. Well, what if this boat is something, well, I don't know. I don't know if I'm making any sense. I'm starting to ramble now. Other thoughts. I really liked Quaritch. When I first saw that he was now an Avatar, I was very skeptical. I was like, oh, come on. No, are you going to do this, really? But actually, it made sense. It wasn't like they just completely... it was a retcon, but it wasn't... It made sense within the logic of how the world of Pandora, the Na'vi, and Avatars work. So I can buy it, and I thought he was a great character. I liked him and his gang. And Spider, they didn't really develop enough. I think they should have really focused on him. I got more out of it the second time, though. I do feel like the first time I missed a lot of stuff going on with just the characters because there's so much going on. But I saw a little bit more. So I thought the characters were fairly well developed. Pretty well done overall. The new characters, who's I don't remember any of their names, in the Ocean Clan tribe. I liked them, but they not really that much. There weren't really many that I really liked that much. I thought the main big buff guy was pretty cool. His wife, Kate Winslet, was pretty cool. So yeah, the elus were cool, the whales were cool, the plesiosaur dolphin things. I liked some of the references to Vietnam with Quaritch and his gang torching a village. The old My Lai massacre, right? So yeah, the battle at the end with all the boats was a scene from the G.I. Joe movie that I wish they could have made from my childhood. All of those vehicles and stuff. I was like, oh my gosh, these are G.I. Joes in real life, and they're awesome, and I love that. So anyway, I will leave it there. Those are my thoughts on Avatar and Avatar 2, and I don't know if all that made any sense or if I was rambling a little bit, but hopefully it does. I'm going to stick with it, and those are my thoughts. Any other thoughts? Great score. There was a 90s vibe to a lot of it, surprisingly. I think James Cameron is a little bit stuck in the 90s. Like the theme song at the end. I was like, this feels like something from the 90s. But that was okay. The themes, I thought the theme of family wasn't as deeply spiritual as sort of the theme of... It was, the first one was very spiritually archetypal, which I loved. So I thought it was very deep. This one wasn't as deep in that way. But spiritually, it was a message that I think that people need to see in today's day and age. Something simple and wholesome, like how important it is that families love each other. And so, yeah, can't wait for the next one. It could go anywhere, and I'm pretty excited. Only a year, I think. So, anyway,